Chapter 7. Grayle. When the pizzas arrived, Cole was opening the door to show the liquor guy out, and the chef in. I could see the steam coming from the boxes. Augustine knew how to keep the pizzas fresh and hot, because of his experience in the cooking and catering scene, such as it was in Nevermore. I'd met him before when I first came to see about my father, and I didn't have time to cook because of business. Cole had said that he knew of this guy who was a chef, and maybe that could solve one of my problems. I needed someone to cook for my father like yesterday, and Cole and Keys had recommended Augustine. I hadn't planned for a professional chef, because my father hadn't been eating much since my mom died, but when he began to lose weight, I was glad that I knew someone to make sure he had nutritious food on a daily basis, and Augustine would take the time to send me texts about how my father was doing. Before then, I had been reluctant to hire him. My father had assured me that he could cook his own food, and I wanted to respect his wishes. That was a recipe for disaster. When I got several calls from neighbors that my father had managed to have a fire in the house, I took Cole's advice and interviewed Augustine. Augustine had met me at home when I drove down for my summer vacation. He sauntered into the house, introduced himself with flair and a phony French accent. I couldn't resist letting him take over the kitchen. He cooked for me and my father that day, and I was sold. The food was delicious, light and nutritious, and most of all, my father liked him and the food. During my interview to see if Augustine was a good fit for my father, and I could trust him when I was away, I asked about his credentials and I did a background search. I discovered he had come down from New Orleans looking for a place to live after the floodwater destroyed his home and business, and he liked the small-town atmosphere because of where he was originally from. His surname was Augustine, and he spoke French. Not the French we'd find in Paris, France, but the patois that Cajuns spoke. He'd been raised in the Louisiana bayous, and his family had lived there since French pirates had settled along the Gulf of Mexico. Most notably, Jean Lafitte. His ancestor had been a crew member for the pirate Lafitte, and during the war they had hidden out and made their home in Vermilion Parish near Abbeville. He'd left there to go to a culinary of arts school in New Orleans, met a man from Nevermore, and eventually married him. Augustine explained how important it was to cook the right kind of food for a man my father's age. I was impressed and gave him the job, because I hadn't decided whether I would move to my hometown or return to Manhattan. It was impossible to bring an older man with dementia to New York, so here I was, home to stay. The bell kept ringing, and groups of men were filing in, shaking my hand and reminding me of who they were. Cole's boyfriend Keys showed up in the crowd with a wide smile, impressive physique, his large arms, rock-hard pecs riddled with tattoos, and these were where I could see. I was sure Cole was privy to more of those dazzling tattoos than the outside world. "I love your tattoos, man. Can you recommend a place?" "Yup. There's a shop not far from my mechanic place of business. It's called Wounded Inked. It's a franchise. Only one in this area. The premise is for wounded vets to have employment and own their own business." "Thanks. Great to know." Keys had a gentle smile, but a strong handshake. I could tell Cole was in love, and I understood what he liked about Keys. He was, no doubt, the opposite of Cole. Keys was a successful mechanic, and Cole had taken a position at the local college 30 minutes from Nevermore. I wondered how that combination came about, the professor and the mechanic, how perfect. As 9 o'clock neared, and with only a few minutes to spare, the bell rang and I heard Lane say, "That's Caden." My heart soared and my hands were sweating, and maybe I was having a heart attack at 35. That wasn't unheard of, but when my cock thumped and twitched, I knew Caden was near. I opened the door and tried to feign a surprised look. I was so happy I wanted to grab him and kiss him, because he disregarded my brushing him off by declaring that he was too young for me. Still trying to keep my cool, I said, "You are just in time for the movie." Cole is passionate about movies, and especially Hitchcock's. The room was large and accommodated 10 guys where the seating was paired, but after Cole lowered the lights and clicked on Lifeboat, as he utilized his partner's lap to watch the first movie of the night. That left 2 comfortable chairs, sitting side by side. Just perfect for us to be together. I looked nervously at him as we stood in the back, away from the group. And to my surprise, he said, "Does that mean you've reconsidered my offer to go on a date?" I hadn't expected him to start on me this fast. I was trying to figure out what I wanted from him and to relate that to him, but I saw he didn't want just a friendship, and that was all I could afford at this time. "You don't consider this a date?" I answered, rubbing my palms together nervously. "Not unless you think being surrounded by 10 men who are friends watching a movie in your place is dating. I'd rather be around 60 strangers in a movie house, eating popcorn with you, bumping our legs together, stealing a kiss while you palm my cock, or I palm your erection." Caden's bluish-green eyes bored into mine, taking my breath. Wow, that was hot. I hadn't felt that intense warm feeling in months. Caden ran his tongue around his bottom lip. I wanted to tug his sexy lips with my teeth and suck on them, but how would that look? My friends knew of my commitment to Austin. Hell, every chance I got when they wanted to set me up with a date, I declared that I was monogamous. Maybe I can do better next time. I hoped there would be a next time. He offered me a smile, and turned and reached for a slice of pizza that Augustine had placed on the counter where we were standing. Caden took a slice and sat, then bit the tip of the pizza and looked up at me. "This is good, but I bet you taste better," he said, chewing slowly and swiping his tongue around his lips once more, causing my cock to respond with pre-cum. My eyes chased his long tongue, and my cock chased the feeling he'd given me. When I leaned in, I closed my eyes, ghosted my lips against Caden's lips, when I heard the door opening. I didn't know who it was. I quickly took a head count, and everyone was seated. Augustine was in the kitchen with his husband, preparing something for those who wanted sandwiches. Immediately, I turned and headed to the foyer, and oh fuck me. "Austin, what are you doing here? Do I need an invitation to visit my partner? I see you're having a party. When are you going to introduce me to your friends?" I'd wanted to do that forever, but he never had the time or wanted to meet them. "After this movie is over," I explained, hoping he didn't notice that the blush in my cheeks wasn't for him. "Let me take your bags." I carried his bag with me, because I had to warn Caden that Austin was my boyfriend and partner. When I strode back into the movie room, and everyone was glued to the flat screen, eating and kissing, I stood in front of Caden. "Caden, I want you to meet my boyfriend." His face changed from sexy mischief and craziness I adored, to sour and sober. That amusing, playful look in his eyes had been replaced with, "I'm sorry, who did you say he was?" "Austin is his partner, as in we live together and we're planning on getting married," Austin said. That was the first I'd heard of that. "Why aren't you married now? If I lived with a man as handsome and special as Grayle, I'd want to make sure no other man could get to him easily. Now marriage is a long-term commitment, I know, and I'd like the idea of an obligation to the one I love. Partners without the benefit of paper is just that, nothing but in a name." "And you are?" Austin asked, slanting his head to the side. "The man who will take your place." "Oh fuck. No, Caden didn't just say that. You're nothing but a boy. You have more growing up to do to take my place," Austin countered. "Boys have been known to grow up overnight, and—" "Quiet. Can everyone stop with the talking? We're trying to watch a movie here," Cole said, saving the day. "William Bendix has the best line in the whole damn movie. It's coming up, and I'd like to hear it if you don't mind." I closed my eyes and raked my fingers through my hair. How the fuck do I get out of this? I remembered Austin's bag on the floor, and I picked it up, and turned to place his leather satchel in the bedroom. When I took a deep breath, I headed for the kitchen, smiled, and walked in to give the chef and his husband a thumbs up for great food and service. I needed a break. However, when I returned, I sat near an empty chair. Austin was gone, and so was Caden.